Hello and welcome to our 8-part video series on how to teach creative writing with me, your host, Nick Hesketh. In this part, we'll look at the use of language and the 5 senses in creative writing. Before you start, follow the link to 4 useful words and print out a copy or copies for the class wall or tables. Distribute at the appropriate time. Start the lesson by asking for examples of delivery systems. You will be given any number of postal services and fast food companies. Broaden the definition to include electricity pylons and their cables, medicines, cutlery, hypodermic syringes, etc. End the list with language and discuss what it is that language delivers. In the most basic of terms, emotion and information. Make the point that, used alone, the word happy does not deliver happiness. The word sad does not deliver sadness. If they read the line, "The house was spooky," does the word spooky make them feel frightened? Clearly not. This is because happy, sad, and spooky are blunt words, so named because they don't penetrate the reader's imagination. Used alone, blunt words often fail to deliver their emotional content. For example, "John was happy" is not as effective as "John grinned broadly." "Jill was sad" is not as effective as "Jill's eyes welled with tears." This isn't to say that blunt words don't have their place. They just require support from their friends. Both "Jill had never felt so sad" and "John was so happy he hugged himself" are perfectly fine. Ensuring words deliver their content is another way of saying that we want our reader to empathize with the characters in our story. Define and explore the word empathy, making the point that to get a reader to empathize with our characters, we need to use words that deliver emotion as well as information. Remind them of the senses and explain that writers explore their imaginary worlds using all 5. In fact, only by evoking the senses will a writer turn an unbelievable story into a believable dream. At this point, take a moment to explain what evoke means. It's a very useful word to know when learning how to write creatively. Now, back to our story. Begin by having the children explore the chosen setting with their senses and build a word bank as you go. With a class that requires help, I'm fond of introducing an old school at night in winter, so I'm going to proceed on that basis. Inside the school, it's dark, so how can we see? Street lighting? Security lamps? The headlights of passing cars? What can be seen? Empty corridors, stairwells and classrooms, an open cupboard, posters and murals on the wall. What can be heard? The rain against the windows, the rush of dry leaves, a dripping tap, an unseen pot of pens falling from a desk. What can be smelt? Floor polish, damp gym kits, chalk, and outside the staff room, the stale aroma of coffee and cakes. What can be felt? The warm, dry air of a radiator, the sharp breeze coming from a cracked window. The golden rule is slow and steady. Don't rush. Follow the mood. In moving image, cinema and TV, shock arrives suddenly. In literature, it has to be built gradually. Ask the class who or what might be the first character we see. Having listened, ask if a scary man, vampire, or monster is truly frightening. A writer must never be predictable. Creative writing is as much about learning to reject poor ideas as thinking up good ones. In a phrase, whenever possible, surprise the reader. Through a camera lens of words, Lead the pupils, or even better, help them lead you, through the school to where an indistinct shadow becomes a girl, sitting cross-legged in front of a tall bricked-up door. She turns her head. Her face is nothing but a dark hollow, out of which rises a terrible scream. Our main character, Tom, 11, wakes, sweating and shaking. This is a classic way to begin a ghost story. Now, ask the children to write a few sentences describing the dark corridors and empty classrooms of a primary school at night. Their challenge is to use as few blunt words as possible and ban the word spooky. This task should take no more than 15 minutes to complete. Finish the lesson with a brief and joyous readathon.